I rejected him to see if he'd fight for me. He just moved on instead. I'm sitting at my favorite table in Cafe Luminous, staring at my reflection in the window. The rain taps gently against the glass, creating a rhythm that matches my anxious heartbeat. I take a sip of my now cold latte and glance at my phone for the 100th time. No new messages. This is ridiculous, I think, setting my phone down with more force than necessary. It's been 3 weeks. He should have called by now. A couple walks in, shaking raindrops from their coats, laughing together as they huddle close. I look away, the sight of their happiness making my chest ache. My name is Natalie Parker, 32 years old, and 3 weeks ago I made the biggest mistake of my life. I rejected my husband of 5 years, Marcus, 35, in what I thought was a clever test of his devotion. Instead, I destroyed everything we had built together. April 2024, 6 weeks ago. I'm standing in our spacious kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner while Marcus sits at the island scrolling through his phone. The evening sunlight filters through our windows, casting a warm glow over our modern apartment. Rebecca got engaged, I say, sliding the bell peppers into a bowl. Jason took her to Paris and proposed under the Eiffel Tower. She said the ring is enormous. Marcus glances up from his phone. That's nice. Good for them. I watch him return to whatever article has captured his attention. My knife hits the cutting board with more force. Don't you think that's romantic? Flying someone to Paris just to propose? He shrugs. Seems a bit showy to me. But if that's what they wanted, I think, of course he'd say that. Marcus never does anything grand or romantic anymore. I feel a familiar restlessness creeping in, that sense that life with Marcus has become too predictable, too comfortable. Remember how you proposed to me? I ask, knowing the answer. Marcus looks up and smiles. At your parents' house during Christmas, you said you loved that it was intimate and meaningful. I did, I say, though in my head I'm thinking, but sometimes I wonder what it would be like to be with someone more spontaneous, more exciting. Our marriage wasn't bad. Marcus was reliable, kind, and steady, qualities I once cherished. He worked as a software engineer while I managed a boutique downtown. We had a nice apartment, took annual vacations, and rarely fought. But lately, I'd been feeling unfulfilled, wondering if this was all there was. My college roommate Vanessa had recently divorced her husband, claiming she needed to rediscover herself. She'd been posting photos with different men, exploring exotic locations, and seemed electrifyingly alive. Meanwhile, my Instagram featured dinner recipes and the occasional weekend hike with Marcus. Maybe we should plan a trip, I suggest, rinsing my hands. Go somewhere exciting. Sure, Marcus says. After this project wraps up, maybe late summer? I think, always later, always careful planning, never spontaneous. What I didn't appreciate then was that Marcus's stability had given me the freedom to pursue my own interests. He managed our finances meticulously, never complained when I spent money on clothes or nights out with friends, and supported my career ambitions. He was the foundation that made everything else possible. But I was too restless to see it. 2 weeks later, I'm sitting at Vanessa's luxury apartment, a glass of expensive red wine in my hand as I listen to her latest dating adventure. So then, she continues, crossing her legs on her white leather sofa, he flies me to Miami for the weekend, just because I mentioned I've never been. Can you imagine? I take a large sip of wine. That's incredible. How are things with you and Marcus? She asks, refilling my glass. I shrug. Fine. The same. The same? She raises a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. Oh, honey, the same is where relationships go to die. I think, is she right? Have Marcus and I fallen into a death spiral of sameness? The wine makes my thoughts swirl uncomfortably. You know, Vanessa leans forward conspiratorially, sometimes you need to shake things up. Test the waters. See if he still wants you enough to fight for you. What do you mean? Men get comfortable. They stop trying. Sometimes you need to withdraw a little, create some uncertainty. If he loves you, he'll step up. I swirl the wine in my glass. Like how? Maybe suggest a break. Nothing serious. Just tell him you need space to figure things out. If he fights for you, you know he's still invested. On my Uber ride home, I think, maybe Vanessa is right. Marcus has gotten too comfortable. He takes me for granted. A little test might reignite that spark we've lost. The dangerous thing about advice is how reasonable it can sound when it aligns with what you already want to believe. That Friday night, I'm standing in our bedroom watching Marcus hang up his blazer after a long work week. He looks tired but content. "How was girls' night with Vanessa?" he asks, loosening his tie. I take a deep breath. "It was good. We talked about a lot of things, including us." Marcus turns to me, his expression curious. "Us? I think I need some space," is Marcus. His hands freeze on his tie. "Space? What does that mean exactly?" I just, I falter, suddenly uncertain, but then I remember Vanessa's confident tone. "I feel like we've lost our spark. Everything's so predictable. I need time to figure out what I want." I think now he'll fight for us. He'll promise to be more exciting, more spontaneous. He'll remind me why I fell in love with him. But Marcus just stands there, his face unreadable. When he finally speaks, his voice is quiet. "Are you saying you want a separation?" "Not permanently," I clarify quickly. "Just a break to see where we stand." He walks to the window and stares out at the city lights. I wait for him to argue, to tell me I'm being ridiculous, to promise he'll do better. Instead, he says, "If that's what you need." I blink, thrown off by his easy acceptance. "You're not going to try to change my mind?" "Natalie," he says, turning to face me, "I've never wanted to force you to be with me. If you need space to be happy, I'll respect that. This isn't going according to plan. Where's the passion, the desperation, the fighting for us?" "I thought maybe I could stay at Vanessa's for a while," I say, testing him further. He nods slowly. "I can help you pack some things tomorrow if you want." I think this isn't right. He's supposed to beg me to stay, but I've gone too far to back down now. "Okay," I say, my voice smaller than I intended. "I'll go tomorrow." That night, we sleep on opposite sides of the bed, a chasm of uncertainty between us. I lie awake, wondering if I've made a terrible mistake, but too proud to admit it. The next morning, I'm in our walk-in closet, folding clothes into a suitcase while Marcus makes coffee in the kitchen. My hands are shaking slightly. This is just temporary, I remind myself. He'll realize what he's missing and fight to get me back. When I emerge with my suitcase, Marcus is leaning against the kitchen counter, 2 mugs of coffee beside him. He offers one to me. "Thanks," I say, taking it. The familiar morning ritual suddenly feels precious. "I transferred some money to your personal account," he says, "just to make sure you're covered while we figure this out." I nod, surprised by his practicality in the face of what should be an emotional crisis. "Marcus, don't you want to know why I'm doing this?" He takes a slow sip of coffee. "I think I know. You've been unhappy for a while, Natalie. Maybe I haven't been the husband you need me to be." "No, that's not." I start, then stop. Isn't that exactly what I was thinking? That he wasn't exciting enough? That our life together had become too predictable? "You deserve to be happy," he continues. "We both do. Maybe this time apart will give us clarity." His reasonable tone makes me want to scream. I think, why won't he fight for me? Doesn't he care that I'm leaving? "How long do you think you'll stay at Vanessa's?" he asks. "I don't know. A few weeks, maybe." He nods. "I'll be here if you need anything." When I leave our apartment, rolling my suitcase behind me, I keep waiting for him to stop me, to pull me into his arms, to beg me to reconsider. But he just stands in the doorway, a sad smile on his face, and says, "Take care of yourself, Natalie." The door closes behind me with a soft click that sounds unnervingly final. 2 days later, I'm lounging on Vanessa's guest bed, scrolling through social media when I see that Marcus has changed his relationship status to "It's complicated." My stomach drops. He updated his relationship status, I tell Vanessa, who's painting her nails a vivid red at the vanity. "Good," she says without looking up. "That means he's feeling it. Wait until he starts posting sad song lyrics." I think, is this really what I wanted? For both of us to be miserable. I text Marcus, "How are you doing?" His reply comes an hour later. "Managing. Hope you're well at Vanessa's." The brevity stings. I was hoping for something more vulnerable, more revealing. "Just checking in," I respond. "This is temporary, you know?" "I know," he writes back, "nothing more." I think, why isn't he asking when I'm coming home? Why isn't he saying he misses me? He's being too casual about this. I tell Vanessa over dinner that night. She shrugs, cutting into her salmon. "He's probably just hiding his feelings. Men do that. Give it another week. He'll crack." But another week passes, and Marcus remains politely distant. Our text exchanges are brief and practical. He asks if I need anything from the apartment, tells me when he's watered my plants, informs me that a package arrived for me. Not once does he ask when I'm coming back. Friday night, 2 weeks after I left. I'm at a bar with Vanessa and her friends, nursing a cocktail I don't really want. Music pulses around us, but I'm not feeling it. Stop checking your phone, Vanessa chides, sliding it away from me. Look around. There are plenty of attractive men here. You're technically on a break, remember? I think, but I don't want other men. I want Marcus to want me back. I should call him, I say, reaching for my phone. Vanessa intercepts my hand. Absolutely not. That defeats the whole purpose. You're supposed to be showing him what he's missing, not chasing after him. Just then, my phone lights up with a notification from Instagram. Marcus has posted for the first time since I left. Curious, I open it immediately. It's a photo of him at the rock climbing gym, something he's talked about trying for years but never did because I wasn't interested. He's smiling, chalk on his hands, looking more relaxed than I've seen him in months. The caption reads, "Finally trying new things. Better late than never." He's rock climbing, I mutter, showing Vanessa the post. She examines it with narrowed eyes. Interesting. He's trying to show you he can have fun without you. Classic. But I'm not so sure. There's something genuine about his smile that bothers me. He doesn't look like a man posting to make his estranged wife jealous. He looks like someone actually enjoying himself. I think, what if he's moving on already? What if my test backfired completely? I spend the rest of the night distracted, wondering what else Marcus might be doing without me. The following Tuesday, I'm at Vanessa's kitchen island, staring at my phone, debating whether to call Marcus. Just invite him to coffee, Vanessa suggests, sipping her morning smoothie. Neutral territory, see where his head is at. I nod and dial his number before I can lose my nerve. He answers on the fourth ring. Natalie? He sounds surprised. Hi, I say, suddenly nervous. I was wondering if you'd like to meet for coffee this afternoon, just to talk. There's a pause. I have meetings until 5, but I could meet after that. We arranged to meet at a cafe, halfway between Vanessa's apartment and ours, no, his now, at 5:30. All day, I rehearse what I'll say, how I'll explain that this was all a misunderstanding, that I never actually wanted a break, that I was just testing our relationship. But even in my head, the explanation sounds childish and manipulative. At 5:15, I'm sitting at a corner table in the cafe, my hands wrapped around a mug of tea, watching the door. When Marcus walks in at 5:28, my heart jumps. He looks different somehow, more confident, his posture straighter. He's wearing a blue button-down I've never seen before. Hey, he says, sliding into the seat across from me. How are you? I'm okay, I reply, studying his face. You look good. He smiles slightly. Thanks, I've been making some changes. I saw your Instagram post. Rock climbing? Yeah, he nods. I've been going 3 times a week. Should have started years ago. I think, 3 weeks ago, he would have asked me to come with him, even knowing I wouldn't want to. What else is new? I ask, trying to keep my tone light. I joined a book club through work, and I've been cooking more, trying those meal kits you always said were a waste of money. He says this without accusation, just stating facts. Sounds like you're doing well, I say, a knot forming in my stomach. I'm trying to, he admits. It hasn't been easy, but it's been clarifying. The word hangs between us. Clarifying how? Marcus takes a deep breath. Natalie, can I ask you something? What were you hoping would happen when you left? The direct question catches me off guard. I think, I can't tell him the truth, that it was a test, a game. He'll hate me for it. I thought we needed some perspective, I say carefully, some space to evaluate our relationship. And have you? Evaluated it, I mean? I nod, swallowing hard. I miss you, Marcus. I think I made a mistake. His expression softens, but not in the way I'd hoped. It's not relief I see, but something closer to pity. I've been doing a lot of thinking too, he says, and I realize now that I wasn't happy either. Not because I didn't love you. I do, but because I was always trying to be what I thought you wanted. I was afraid of losing you, so I never challenged you or stood my ground. That's not true, I protest, though a voice in my head whispers that it is. It is, he says gently. When's the last time I disagreed with you about something important? When's the last time I pursued something I wanted that you didn't approve of? I can't answer. These past few weeks have been hard, he continues, but they've also shown me that I need to value myself more. And I don't think I can do that if we just go back to how things were. I feel tears forming. What are you saying? I'm saying I don't think a few weeks apart is enough. I think we need to consider a more permanent separation. The world seems to tilt. This wasn't supposed to happen. He was supposed to beg for another chance, not suggest ending things completely. But I love you, I whisper, reaching for his hand across the table. He lets me take it, but his grip is loose. I love you too, Natalie. That's what makes this so hard. Then why can't we fix this? I'll be different. I'll support your interests. I'll be more appreciative. It's not about you changing for me, he interrupts. That's the same pattern, just reversed. We both need to figure out who we are individually before we can be healthy together, if that's even possible. I think, this is all wrong. I was supposed to have the upper hand. He was supposed to be devastated without me. Is there someone else? I ask suddenly, the thought hitting me like a truck. No, he says firmly. Absolutely not. This is about us, not anyone else. Then just come home, I plead. We'll talk through everything. We'll get counseling if we need to. Marcus sighs, gently withdrawing his hand. I need more time, Natalie. And I think if you're honest with yourself, you do too. Why did you really leave? What were you looking for? I can't hold his gaze. How can I admit I was playing a childish game, that I expected him to chase after me, to prove his love through desperation? I don't know, I say finally, which is only partly a lie. I didn't know it would lead here. That's what I thought, he says softly. When you figure it out, maybe we can talk again. He pays for both our drinks and leaves me sitting alone, stunned and tearful in a cafe filling with the after-work crowd. 1 week later, I'm standing outside his apartment building, gathering my courage. After our coffee meeting, I spiraled into a mess of regret and confusion. Vanessa's advice suddenly seemed toxic and self-serving. What had I done to my marriage for the sake of a silly test? I ring the buzzer, my heart pounding. No answer. I try again. Nothing. Pulling out my phone, I call Marcus. It goes to voicemail. I think he's ignoring me. He's really moving on. Just as I'm about to leave, a familiar face exits the building. Our neighbor, Mrs. Chen. Natalie, she says, surprised. I haven't seen you in weeks. Hi, Mrs. Chen. I'm looking for Marcus. Is he home? She adjusts her grocery bags. Oh no, dear. He left for a camping trip this morning with some friends. Said he'd be gone through the weekend. Camping? Marcus had always claimed to hate the outdoors. Who were these friends? Did he say when he'd be back? Sunday evening, I believe. He asked me to water his plants while he's gone. I thank her and walk away, feeling like I've entered some parallel universe where my steady, predictable husband has been replaced by a spontaneous stranger who climbs rocks and goes camping. Scrolling through Instagram as I walk, I find Marcus has posted again, a photo of him and 4 other people I vaguely recognize from his office, loading up hiking backpacks into an SUV, all smiling in the early morning light. The caption, weekend adventure with great people, unplugging for a few days. The photo has more likes than anything he's posted in years, including several appreciative comments from women I don't know. One in particular catches my eye. So glad you joined the outdoor club. Can't wait to hear all about it. Melissa. I think, who the hell is Melissa? I spend the weekend in a state of anxious jealousy, checking social media constantly, even though I know Marcus won't be posting if he's truly unplugging. Vanessa tries to distract me with shopping and brunches, but her heart isn't in it anymore. I suspect she's tired of my moping. Maybe you should move back to your apartment, she suggests on Saturday night. Take the bedroom, let Marcus use the guest room. At least you'd be on home turf. I shake my head. He doesn't want me there. He made that clear. Then maybe it's time to accept that your little experiment failed, she says with uncharacteristic bluntness. Sometimes when you push someone away, they actually go. Sunday evening. I'm parked across the street from our apartment building, watching the entrance like some kind of stalker. It's pathetic, but I need to see him. At 7:42 p.m., an SUV pulls up and Marcus gets out along with his coworkers. He looks tanned, relaxed, and happy. He's laughing at something someone said, his head thrown back in a way I haven't seen in ages. A woman with dark, curly hair, Melissa, touches his arm as she speaks, and he nods, smiling down at her. I think he never smiled at me like that. Not recently, anyway. They unload their gear, and Marcus gives each person a hug before they depart. The woman with curly hair gets an extra squeeze. Nothing inappropriate, just friendly, connected. I sink lower in my seat, shame washing over me. What am I doing here? Spying on my husband like a jealous teenager? I start my car and drive away before he can spot me. Monday morning. I'm sitting in the office of a marriage counselor I found online, fidgeting with my wedding ring that I put back on for the occasion. And Marcus will be joining us? Dr. Reynolds asks, reviewing her notes. No, I admit. He doesn't know I'm here. I thought I should talk to someone professional first to understand what happened. She nods. That's a good first step. Tell me about your relationship. For the next hour, I pour out the whole story. My restlessness, Vanessa's advice, my test, and Marcus's unexpected response. Dr. Reynolds listens without judgment, occasionally making notes. It sounds like you were looking for validation, she says when I finish. You wanted Marcus to prove he valued you through a grand gesture. I nod, wiping away tears. But instead, he's found himself without me. He's happier. You don't know that for certain, she says gently. But what's clear is that your relationship had issues on both sides. You felt underappreciated and overlooked. He felt he couldn't be authentic with you. So it's hopeless, I say flatly. Not necessarily, but reconciliation would require honesty from both of you. You would need to acknowledge the game you were playing. He would need to express his needs more clearly. It would take work. I think, but what if he doesn't want to do that work anymore? What if he's moved on to Melissa with the curly hair and their outdoor adventures? What should I do? I ask. Start with honesty, Dr. Reynolds suggests. Write him a letter explaining your feelings, your real feelings, not what you think he wants to hear. Acknowledge your mistakes, then give him space to respond or not respond. And if he doesn't, she smiles sympathetically. Then you'll have your answer, and you can begin to move forward. That evening, I'm sitting at Vanessa's elegant desk, staring at a blank piece of paper. The apartment is quiet. Vanessa is on a date, giving me privacy. I think, how do I explain what I did without sounding manipulative and childish? After several false starts, I begin. Dear Marcus, there's no easy way to say this, so I'll be direct. I made a terrible mistake. When I asked for a break, it wasn't because I wanted space or needed to find myself. It was because I was playing a game, a stupid, immature game to see if you would fight for me. I listened to bad advice instead of talking to you honestly about my feelings. I felt restless and taken for granted, but instead of communicating that, I tested you. I expected you to chase after me, to beg me to come back, to prove your love through desperation. What I didn't expect was for you to respect my stated wishes, to take the opportunity for self-reflection, to find happiness in my absence. I was so focused on what I thought you weren't giving me that I never considered what I wasn't giving you. Space to be yourself, support for your interests, appreciation for your steady presence. Seeing you thrive these past weeks has been both painful and eye-opening. I realize now how selfish I've been, how I've prioritized my needs and wants without considering yours. I won't ask you to take me back. I've lost that right. But I want you to know that I am deeply sorry for the pain I've caused and the trust I've broken. You deserved better than a wife who would test your love rather than nurture it. I'll be moving my things out of Vanessa's this weekend. I've found a small studio apartment with a month-to-month lease. I'd like to come by sometime to pick up more of my belongings if that's okay with you. Just let me know when would be convenient. Whatever you decide about our future, I want you to know that I love you and I'm proud of the person you're becoming, even if I'm no longer part of that journey. Natalie. I seal the letter in an envelope, feeling a strange mix of dread and relief. Tomorrow, I'll deliver it to our apartment, leaving it with the doorman if Marcus isn't home. It's not a perfect letter. It doesn't fix what I broke, but it's honest, and that's something I haven't been in a long time. 2 days later, I'm unpacking boxes in my new studio apartment, a sad, cramped space compared to the home I shared with Marcus. I've heard nothing since delivering my letter, which I take as a bad sign. My phone rings and my heart leaps, but it's only my mother. "How are you holding up, sweetheart?" she asks. I hadn't told her the full story, just that Marcus and I were having problems. "I'm managing," I say, looking around at my new diminished life. "Just busy unpacking." "Any word from Marcus?" "No," I admit. "I don't think there will be." There's a knock at my door, and I freeze. "Mom, I need to go. Someone's here." I hang up and approach the door cautiously. Through the peephole, I see Marcus standing in the hallway, my letter in his hand. I think, oh God, he's here to tell me it's over for good. Opening the door, I try to appear composed, though my heart is racing. Hi, he says, his expression unreadable. "Can I come in?" I step back, gesturing to the sparse room. It's not much. He enters, glancing around at the half-unpacked boxes and the futon that serves as both my bed and sofa. "You found this place quickly." "Month to month," I explain. "I didn't want to commit to anything permanent." He nods, then holds up the letter. "I got this." "I meant every word," I say quietly. Marcus sighs, running a hand through his hair. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." Of course, if I hadn't started doing my own thing, the climbing, the camping, making new friends, would you have realized all this? Or would you have come back only when you got bored at Vanessa's? The question cuts deep because I honestly don't know the answer. Would I have recognized my mistakes if he'd remained the same Marcus, patiently waiting for me? I'd like to think I would have, I say carefully, but I can't know for sure. What I do know is that seeing you happy without me made me realize how much I'd taken you for granted, how I'd stopped seeing you as a whole person with your own needs and desires. He nods slowly. I've been doing a lot of thinking too, about why I never stood up for myself, why I always deferred to what you wanted. That's not healthy either. No, it's not, I agree. We both made mistakes. The thing is, Natalie, he continues, pacing the small room, I'm not sure I can trust you now, not just because of the test, but because of what it reveals about how you see our relationship. Like it's a power struggle, not a partnership. I think he's right. That's exactly what I was doing, trying to regain power I thought I'd lost. I understand, I say, fighting back tears. I wouldn't trust me either. Marcus stops pacing and faces me. I don't want a divorce. The words hang in the air, unexpected and fragile. You don't? No. Despite everything, I still love you. But I can't go back to how things were. I won't. Hope flutters in my chest. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe we could try again, slowly, on new terms, with counseling. He hesitates. But you need to understand something. I'm not the same person I was 3 weeks ago. I'm not giving up the new parts of myself I've discovered. I wouldn't want you to, I say, meaning it. I like this new Marcus. He seems freer. He is, Marcus smiles slightly. Turns out I actually enjoy the outdoors. Who knew? A small laugh escapes me. Not me, clearly. So, he says, suddenly looking uncertain, would you be willing to try? Not moving back in right away, but maybe dating again, getting to know each other as we are now? I think this isn't what I expected. This isn't him begging for things to go back to normal. This is something new entirely. Yes, I say, reaching for his hand. I'd like that very much. He takes my hand, but his grip is tentative. There's a long road ahead, trust to rebuild, patterns to break, a new relationship to forge from the ashes of the old one. It's not the grand romantic reunion I once imagined. There's no passionate embrace, no sweeping declarations, no immediate happily ever after. Instead, there's something more valuable: honesty, accountability, and the possibility of something stronger than what we had before. I rejected him to see if he'd fight for me. He moved on instead. But maybe, just maybe, we can find our way back to each other as better versions of ourselves. Not through games or tests or power struggles, but through the slow, honest work of building something real.